thank you for the Open Theatre for having me. I'm going to tell a story about my cat. So it's called The Art of Loving. Lovey is a natural lover. He wakes us up in the morning with his signature calls and demands our sleepy attention towards his food needs. After his morning pre-breakfast stint, he lapses into a quiet silence for an hour before resuming his calls. If he's not in the mood to hop on our bed, he will come close to our ears and utter his needs. If we ignore him, he tries to bite our hair. My roommate decided to take Lovey in after finding out about him through an Instagram post. He was a 2-year-old cat who had a history of epileptic seizures and dysfunction in his hind legs. I was apprehensive and worried about how it would pan out and shared my concerns with her. We decided to take this step after nights of long discussions, sometimes filled with hope and sometimes with deep anxiety. I think my apprehension came from my experience with my 𝗕𝗂𝗍𝗍 who are disabled, although I was not aware of it at that time. When he first came, I remembered him as a cat who had a lot to share about his grief. He despised his carrier and refused to sit in one place. We could see he was agitated and very sad. He would come up to us, look at us with a blank eye, and utter a loud moan. From that day on, sleep for us ceased to be important. Despite his many challenges as a feline, Lovey was persistent. Every other hour, he would drag his hind legs across the hall, utter loud moans to no one in particular, and eat with the ferocity of a being who had been deprived of food for so long. Many times, he would fall over from the sheer weight of his legs, or in the process of walking, suddenly sit down and blink slowly out of exhaustion. It was overwhelming to be just a passive observer to all of this. We felt the incredible urge to push ourselves financially, mentally, and physically to pour out as much as our love and attention as we could, and constantly reassure him of our presence. We would stay, we told him time and again. We would not leave. He could rest now. It was all over. The first time Lovey purred was a few days after he came, nestled in my roommate's lap after unsuccessful attempts to make him rest. His eyes were closed and his scrawny body sprawled upon her chest. He refused to stop moaning, but this time they were much softer, almost like whispers. My roommate rocked him back and forth and kept saying, "हाँ, मुझे पता है." Every time he opened his eyes and looked at her. The moment was one of many deeply intimate moments we would share with him in the coming weeks. Lovey melted our hearts. There is no other way to say this. After the first 2 months of struggling, he was taken to my roommate's home during the second wave of COVID. Over there, the patient and practiced love of my roommate's parents, as a testament to the upbringing of my roommate and her sibling, was what he exactly needed. And he blossomed into a healthy, playful, and cheeky cat. He was the hope my roommate strung on to during the shocking days of the second wave, and the light that guided us deeply into ourselves and into our own capacities as cat parents. When I met him a few months later, after my own cat had passed away in my home, I clutched him and sobbed for a really long time. He looked at me like a lion in all his furry glory and put a paw over my chest. I could feel my roommate's voice through his actions. हाँ, मुझे पता है. Although I didn't have the vision of thought at that time, I'm grateful to my roommate for having the courage to adopt Lovey, a feat that could only be taken with the grace of wisdom as certainty in hope. I have a lot to learn from her as a person, and I'm constantly amazed by how gently she's able to change the world around herself. I'm happy to report that Lovey is all right and is sleeping in our home, bothered by the summer. I cherish these mundane, everyday moments with him. because I know life is short and unpredictable. Laveen has taught me how to accept and demand love, and I shall forever be in his debt as a human. Thank you.